Okay, it's been a hot minute, but hey everyone, welcome back to the Daily Wise Cipher podcast. This is Scarlett speaking, and I know it's been a hot minute, but yeah, I'm back again hosting with Ania and Moss.
Hiya.
Hi.
All right, and then it looks like we have Emmy, Leona, Raph, and Fui in call with us, so it's great to see you guys again. I haven't gotten a minute to just read everyone's chat here. But yeah, just glad to see everyone's here. We're having a little celebratory day. Oh yeah, speaking of which, happy 6th anniversary, everyone. Today's Spy Family 6th anniversary, I believe. So technically, this today's stream is actually quite special. I love it.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I just happened to just like look into it. I think a few days ago or maybe a week ago, because I remember there were like a few celebrations to look at. So today is officially the launch of Spy Family the manga. So it's that anniversary, the 6th anniversary of the manga. And then I believe the anime is next month, right? Does anyone remember?
Mhm.
I forgot. I need to look into it. We have Raph with us, so Raph is like very quick on finding the details. April 9th, thank you. Yes, I knew it. Yeah, so March for the manga and then April for the anime. If you think about it, Eminem, March manga, anime April. I like that.
Oh yeah.
The assonance. Beautiful. But in any case, yeah, it's been a while since we've had our chapter 2 analyses, so we're gonna go ahead and transition over to that. I'm gonna go ahead and change our screen. Oh my goodness, I keep forgetting. Let me share my screen with y'all. I'm so sorry. Here we go. Okay, hopefully my screen is sharing. For some reason, it's kind of laggy, I think, too. Let me see if I can change it. Change stream quality. I figured. There we go. This should be more manageable. I have a very old laptop, so yeah, I gotta lower the quality. My bad, y'all. It's all good. Thank you for being comfy, adjusting volume and all. Also, let me know if you guys are if the music's too loud. Also, Emmy, hope you're doing better. I heard you're still sick and recovering from your ear infection. Hope you feel better, my dude. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and transition over to page 16. So as you guys can see, this is where we left off. So we saw Thorn Princess in action. So now we see her washing her hands. Honestly, I don't even remember why I circled this. It's been a while. Um,
Mhm.
I can't even remember why I circled this, to be honest with y'all.
Because of the gloves.
Oh
We were talking
yeah.
about the gloves.
Oh my god, you have really good memory. I can't believe. You're right, you're right. So yeah, I seen the last panel, I circled them too. So yeah, we were talking about her gloves, and I remember like kind of focusing on them because I think it was like the same year I got addicted into Spy Family, I bought Yor's costume. And it came with these gloves, and I was
Mhm.
like, oh my god, what do these gloves even do? Like, they're kind of useless. Unless they're like good for grip, right? That's all I can think of. And then we can see from the gloves
Mm.
when she removes them, there's I don't think there's a lot of stain you can see on her palm, even the back of her hand. Just her fingertips and her wrist are showing more of the blood. Um, but yeah, I can't remember why else I circled it other than the gloves. And then we scroll down and we see Yor is just scrubbing her hands. The woman was an assassin, and we can see the result of her quote unquote massage mission. I don't know if she still calls them massage missions, but yeah, her assassination mission. This was quite grotesque when I first saw this. I was like, oh my god, wow. My impression when I first read this, I was like, oh my goodness, that's crazy. But moving forward, the skills of her trade had been drilled into her from a young age. ugh, it won't come off. Splash, splash. She'd been doing whatever dirty work her employer had asked of her since. Okay, so Anya, why did you circle this?
Uh, s- sorry.
I think you circled this like a while back. Um, you said it won't come off and it's like dirty.
Um,
I can kind of see the
yeah.
connection.
Because later on, the English translation would be cleaning house, and this but she's doing kind of like I think I circled it because dirty is exactly the word that is used in the Japanese version too, which is like there is um um a judgment in it, and it almost, when she says it won't come off while saying that it is dirty work, um I think it's kind of like a double meaning that this this is kind of like this has stained her life
Mm-hmm.
in a sense. While I've talked about the layers the characters have, right? The first layer being the Yor in the office, the robotic Yor. The
Mm-hmm.
second layer being the Yor at home, who's talking to Yuri.
Yeah.
And the third layer is Yor as Thorn Princess. And and I think combining with the panels after this page, this is her being the most honest with her own strength and her own weakness.
Here in this moment.
And yes, here in this moment, she's the most powerful because she has just killed a room full of men,
Mm-hmm.
but she's also at her weakest.
Right.
It's like um it is almost um I think Andrew is deliberate in placing her in this exact scene while her being very honest to herself, where she faces her own strength and weakness at the same time,
Yeah.
which in I think in many stories it could be a cool scene, but in this panel or in this scene, Endo sets it to be, rather than a cool scene, it is a scene where she gets to be honest.
Yeah. I like that. There's some dichotomy going on this. That's why I wrote down dichotomy at the top. It's that it's like you mentioned, she shows herself as someone who's very strong, but at the same time, it's like after the kill, she's just very vulnerable, is the feeling I got on here too. It's because I love the connection you made here between dirty and it won't come off. It's like she's literally, like figuratively and literally stained with blood, right? So her life is kind of like, okay, her career is an assassin and it's her main occupation that provides for her and her brother. Um, she is brought up to believe that what she's doing is right. Um, we still don't know if what she's doing is right, though, since we're unsure of Garden's intentions, since we haven't had a conversation or focus on them in a long, long time, and it's been long overdue, I think so. Um, so yeah, it's just very interesting to see how it's for Yor, she doesn't feel quite happy. Like you mentioned, she looks very, very vulnerable in this shot. Because it's
Hmm.
also kind of humorous, also a dark kind of humor. She becomes someone who's really up about cleanliness, because she's obsessed with hiding what she's dirtied. You know, her like her hands, for example, the blood and whatnot. So I think it's a really good point that you pointed that out, and it's even more significant and meaningful since we know basically her role in the family. Okay, so moving on, we have page 17. Huh? Ah, no way. And she ripped her dress. Not my dress. what am I going to do? This is the only nice dress I have. Now I can't go to the party. Sigh. It's just really cute because your here is just being very, very, I don't know, very vulnerable, girlish. It's very feminine. Of course, she'd worry about her ripped dress at this time. I just think it's just very cute and I don't know, just very innocent of her too. It feels very innocent for her to like notice stuff like that. And of course, oh, I see that Moss has underlined some phrases here. What did you want to point out?
So it's the phrase, "This is the only nice dress I have." Because like you don't like if we're saying that this is like 1960s, that's
Mm-hmm.
so like uncharacteristic for women, specifically single women, because
Oh.
they're trying like obviously with like how life was back then. They're trying to find men. They're trying to be the person to be like chosen in a way. Like they're trying to start a family, so they're going to try and look their best constantly.
Yeah.
So the fact that she only has one nice dress is kind of like out there, and obviously she uses it for work, meaning that she might just have never really thought about it. Like she doesn't really ever think about anything but work. She's very integrated, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. It kind of just makes the reader think that maybe she doesn't separate herself from her work. She is one and the same.
Oh wow, you really nailed it there. I actually didn't realize that in retrospect now that you pointed it out. Since it is the 1960s or like late 1969, 1970s, you are correct that at this time we can actually see it like being compared to who is it? Yours colleagues. We
Mhm.
have people like um I'm starting to forget their names. We have Sharon, we have
Sharon, Millie, and Camilla.
yeah, Sharon, Camila, and who's the other one again? Shoot, Millie.
Millie.
Millie, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting everyone's names. Oh my god, my brain. Um, yes, it's just like you said. We have these women here who are just, you can kind of see that the way that they're dressed, the way that they present themselves, they do care about their image. We see what they will look like at the party. Within this chapter later. So they do really care about their appearances. I believe it was already mentioned in the beginning too. When Millie was acting all, oh, what's your brother? Blah blah blah. Is he cute? It's just very girls kind of like, I don't know what to call it. Like it's just girls being girls, like
Hmm.
like they really care about love, they care about image here and there. And then we have I really love that you pointed out that with Yor it's only like one dress. Like, and the irony of that is that, she gets paid really well. She's an assassin. She must be making bank, and she also mentions this far into the like later chapters with the forgers that she has enough money. But the thing is, she doesn't choose to use that money on herself, which is very interesting. So it just kind of points into a direction that I realize Yor must have only used that money for Yuri. When I think about it, I'm like, oh, I'm getting emotional about it. That all the sacrifices she does for her family, man, that makes me so like, ugh, makes me sob. But yeah, very interesting that you caught that, and you really brought up this really nice point here. I see that you circled these chat bubbles here, Anya. So it's you found a good guy yet? Can you believe someone being single at that age? And make sure to bring someone. It was hopeless anyway. Yeah. Oh my God, we just talked about this too. Wow, the connections we're making so quickly. I forgot to even read this below. Anya, go ahead and explain why you circled that.
I think Ando in 2 pages um have already set like the basic characterization for your like her goal in this marriage,
Mm-hmm.
her strength, her weaknesses, and what she feels about the situation. And I think these 2 pages alone set the tone of at least um yours internal conflict, her
Mm-hmm.
major internal conflict for maybe um 80 something or 86 chapters, which she actually transformed because of this insecurity after chapter 86. But the whole first part of the story, we might be able to say, is focused on this insecurity that is partly brought by um the social expectations.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
I agree. Um, yeah, she's definitely distanced herself a lot because the way that she's kind of perceived her own path was, she's just the main provider. She sacrificed having a normal life for her brother. She really saw herself as someone as like kind of like the parenting role at this point because it's just really her and him only with who the members in the Breyer family. It's just the two of them left. So of course she had to sacrifice everything, especially thinking about herself. She didn't like, after all, I mean, I have to address this too. Like a lot of the times women's products are very expensive. Makeup is expensive, dresses, things that we invest into, they can be quite costly, and if you buy it over time, of course the cost is gonna add up and all that stuff. So I love that you pointed in the chat here. um well, I'll scroll up a little bit. So Raph says, we haven't seen Garden since August 2022. Jesus Christ, it has been a long time. Anya, you pointed out that I'm thinking it could be also due to her habit of being frugal. That makes sense, yeah. Fui says she also tends to ask shopkeeper about a lot, his permission. I think that was trained, indoctrinated. Same. Um, Obviously she was a child when she was approached by I don't know if she was approached or she approached Garden. So it makes sense that as a little girl, she kind of felt like she wasn't allowed to do things without their permission. So maybe that's just been ingrained in her. Um, so yeah, Anya also added saying she had to grow up frugal because she has to raise her brother. And Fui adds, focus solely on her work aside from Yuri, so she tends to ask her boss for permission for a fair trade a bit, like making a friend with high class person. Even with Loid, she asked permission. I'm waiting for her to notice and start questioning why she was trained to ask. Me too. I'm waiting for her to realize that. That's probably like the only thing she doesn't know yet. Like, I don't think she questioned it outside of the money it provided for Yuri. For real. I think so too. Yeah, I think for Yor, she has yet to have a moment where it's just a moment of clarity that she doesn't have to ask for permission. I feel like her interaction with Loid will probably bring up that conversation. Maybe she might even bring it up with um shopkeeper. She probably might learn more just from discussing and socializing with people, that she's going to realize at one point or another that the way that she has to like ask permission is not really normal, I would say, especially for her age. Like, she should be, quote unquote, she should be able to make decisions for herself, but I don't think Yor has the confidence completely yet, or she hasn't even noticed that she doesn't have the confidence to make a decision like that, for example. But anyways, transitioning back here, when it comes to homemaking, cleaning house is the only thing I know. Okay, Anya, you went ahead and underlined this. Why?
It's because it echoes the last page where she said the dirty work
Right,
and the blood that doesn't come off her hands.
exactly. Yeah, so
Yep.
I agree with that too. I really like that touch, to be honest, with Endo-san's observation with characters. It's really art mimics life in this moment for me, because it's like a lot of the times the things we lack in ourselves, or like whatever qualities we lack in, we always make it up in the opposite end. So if you're someone who is super chaotic, disorganized in a lot, like, especially like, for example, I'm just gonna put myself out here for example, I'm disorganized, I can be a mess at home, but when you see me at work, I'm like on top of everything. I look like I have my shit together, but it's to make up for the fact like I short end myself a lot with like organization skills. I try my best to look organized and prepare, but sometimes execution's not that great for me. So I'm definitely vibing with Sylvia on that. Um, but in any case, I like this touch because for Yor, it's the fact that she gets her hand dirtied, and to make up for it, she became very obsessed with cleaning. Like, or she doesn't have to be super OCD about cleaning, but she just likes to clean. That's her way of kind of like, in a way, making up for what she does. Is kind of the vibe that I'm getting from that. Moving on to page 18, we have Anya saying, "Did you find a mama?" Not yet. This isn't easy. It's going to be Scruffy. That's so funny. Speaking of scruffy head, I miss Loid's hair like this. This is really cute. I just miss it. I don't know why. He looks very boyish here because, as we see in most recent chapters, I still haven't read the most recent 2 chapters because I've been busy. But
I haven't either yet.
yeah, sorry. But as far as I've seen Loid in maybe the most recent chapters, not the 2 that I didn't read recently, but he looks much older. This one, he looks very small. I don't know, but it's really nice to see the way that his physique here is still kind of like, quote unquote, Robert. He's still in Robert's physique kind of form because he's small, which fits his image because remember we mentioned that Robert is someone who is small, not really someone who grabs attention when he was with Karen. So it's kind of interesting to still see Loid still having that physique of Robert, because over time we get to see Loid becomes more buff. So we have this next section here. Sorry. I see Fui says it's okay, Scarlet. 114 is this Sunday. Oh my god, is it really? Oh my goodness. That's so crazy. Buff boy. So you need a woman who's refined enough for Eden Academy, who doesn't care you're divorced with a kid, and who's willing to get married within 48 hours? If such a goddess exists, I'd sure love to meet her. Scruffy. I copied all the files of unmarried women from City Hall. That's a big help. Meanwhile, I have no standards whatsoever, and I can't even get a single date. That's pathetic. Don't call me pathetic. So, why did you underline this, Anya?
I guess it's funny that he calls himself having no standards,
Mm-hmm.
but he is the one who is trying to help by mm, helping he's trying to help with methods that he would later say that if we can find dirt on them, we can use it for leverage. Like it's kind of like I think Frankie, in some sense, is a more complex character because I'll explain it later.
Mm-hmm.
In 2 pages later. Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. Fui says Frankie has standards, just not many. He flirted with Fiona. Yeah, that's true. He does have some standards, at least to a degree. It's very interesting. I wanted to underline anything here, but I just think this entire thing here is just very ironic. I love that Endo uses basically dramatic irony here. A woman who's refined enough, doesn't care, you're divorced with a kid, and willing to get married within 48 hours. This is just chef's kiss for me, just this language here. It's a dramatic. Let me just type it here because move this up here. I love it. It's like dramatic. There goes my pen. Dramatic irony. And foreshadow at the same time. That's what I really love about this. It's that sometimes Endo doesn't just show it in just features, but he or like in the scenes or just acting out. We actually see it in text too. It's always been really fun to observe how he's able to show us through storytelling, through either through speech or through visual. We see some sort of dramatic irony foreshadow that's happening here. That line makes me want the first to find out about Yor, aside from Anya, to be Frankie. Aw. So moving down here, we have page 19. Is having a kid bad? Am I keeping the mamas away? All right, so Moss, why did you highlight this section?
Okay, so I can't really like verbalize it to myself, so it might be a bit of a jumbled thought.
Go for it.
But I was more like thinking of, is she considering like keeping the mamas away because it's her, or is she thinking like just existing at all is keeping all of the women away, or is it like something happened in her childhood or like when she was younger, and she's now got this fear that she is the reason that like maternal figures aren't staying.
Ooh.
Because obviously, if it's her, they wouldn't have used the word like mama, really, would they? It would just be like women or like a wife. But because it's specified, like she's obviously specifying mamas, it obviously she's got like this issue with maternal figures.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a really good point. I like that you pointed that out too. Out of curiosity, Anya, did Anya also say mamas in her text in Japanese? I'm curious about everyone's translations. If you have it in Spanish too, Emmy and Leona, if you guys have a variation of a different language. I'm just curious, do they also say mamas on there? Yep, I'll check it. Okay. Very, very curious.
I wait a second. I think he in the Japanese she says if I'm the obstruction how to um it's wait a second. Yeah, and my she's not like she didn't mention anything of um a mama. She just asked if Anya is an ob- obstacle or an obstruction or a block. This is what she's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. Wait a second. I probably it's probably best if I just
Yeah, go for it.
type the sentence in, and I am having I don't mm,
Go for it.
don't do
it's
it.
it's very interesting that we're having this
Yes.
conversation, Moss, you're hitting everything today. My brain is just like smooth brain cells. Can't see anything right now. um, I love that you pointed that out. That in the English manga, it says, "Am I keeping the mamas away?" She specifically says "mama." Um, so in that
This
case,
this means she's just like am I obstructing your work? And
interesting.
it's more like it's not about mama. It's more like am I the obstacle rather
Okay.
than asking mama. Yeah.
Okay, because obviously in the chat we've had some of the other translations. So it seems that it's the English version that specifies mamas, and otherwise she's more stressed about the mission itself. I guess that's kind of the undertone.
Uh huh.
Whereas obviously in this translation of the manga, she's more worried about like the family, I guess, or that's the undertone that I'm seeing. So
Yeah.
obviously it's different.
Yeah, I agree. Even Raph points out that keeping the mamas away is not even mentioned. It just says, "Am I in the way?" Emmy also pointed out saying people with children, people with children aren't successful. Am I in the way? So it's very close to this one, but again, it's just am I in the way, not related to mamas. So it's very interesting. She says that. Leona pointed out, in Spanish, she says people with kids are at a disadvantage. Is Anya getting in the way? So she uses her name as third person in Spanish. So interesting. Is having a kid bad? Am I in the way? Yeah. Oh my goodness, you guys. It's really interesting to see that there's a transition difference here, because it makes me curious too. Now that Moss pointed it out, why did the English subtitle specifically say "why mamas"? Why did she point that out? Unless it's like something traumatic was related to it, or it could have been just baby talk. That's another thing that I'm thinking about, because sometimes when children are referring to things, they use baby talk voice. So I would classify her saying, "Am I keeping the mamas away?" is kind of like a baby talk kind of tone. But it's very,
Mhm.
yeah, so it can go in that direction of like it's just Anya being baby talk or like using baby talk voice, or it could be a sign of trauma, considering that she's been returned 3 times, right? It could have been the moms who put her back, or encourage their husbands. The wives encourage their husbands to like, oh, let's not keep her. She's kind of strange. Whereas everything else that we're seeing in Spanish and in the English, sorry, not English, the subtitles on in the anime, in Brazilian, and also in Japanese, it's all showing that she's just saying her existence herself. She's an obstruction to the mission. So Leona says, to me, disadvantage is such an unusual word choice, so strong for a kid, points to her own strategic mind. Yeah, so word choices are very interesting here too. Whereas in the English, it's showing that it's very simplistic. Very interesting that they point out in the Spanish version, disadvantage. That's very strong or like very intellectual for her age. So it kind of shows that Anya is perceived as someone more smart in the Spanish version. That's very interesting, Leona. Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting, guys. Thanks for pointing that out. If there's nothing else to add, I'll move on and read to the next panel. So we have Loid giving her a head pat. There's nothing wrong with you. This is about getting you into school. Oh, Fui says it could be her using Anya in third person because she's used to being referred to as 007 or Brat, so she reminds herself and others that she's Anya. Mama, I think, named her Anya. Probably. That's actually a good point. All right, so Loid is telling her not to worry. He consoles her. You go watch TV and don't worry about it, okay? And then she just runs off. Okay. So, why can't your agency just send you a female operative? They were mostly wiped out during the recent spy sweeps. None of the ones left fit the bill. A whole lot of rats out there these days. She was my partner. No, I love that. So here to point out for myself, I love again. We got a visual that's matching the dialogue. It's very funny. Anya, why did you underline sweeps and you circled Anya?
I underlined spy sweeps because in the Japanese version, I think it's more clearer that someone is telling the authorities. Someone is teaching or so informing the authorities, and that's why there's a sweep.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of like a wave of info that leads to the sweep.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's why I said I underlined the spy sweeps. I circled Anya because she's shaking a bit, which I think a lot of people have already talked about it before. That Twilight pays no attention of whatever she's watching right now. So
Mm-hmm.
she's like happy and then scared and then but she but he's just casually talking to Frankie about his work in the background. So yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I agree that Loid is kind of oblivious because he thought after telling her, "Don't worry about this, go watch your TV," and he saw that she's happy. I think that's probably his last glance, and he looks at Frankie. He doesn't notice the fear or the anxiety that Anya's experiencing, especially with their conversation lining up with the current episode that she's watching. So he's really like tuned out, not very attentive of his adopted daughter, getting anxious all over again because of the conversation that they're having is just serendipitous and also unfortunate timing to show that on TV. And we get to see that these spy sweeps are actually very frequent based on what Frankie is saying here. A whole lot of rats out there these days. So it just goes to show, I think when he uses the word choice rat, someone is betraying Wise, I believe, right? I think that's the only thing I think of. Other than, I don't know if they're using that word correctly. I mean, what I'm trying to say is language always changes. Like in the 1970s, I'm pretty sure they use different phrases, like rats. I don't know if we can use rats as the same meaning as moles, because we know when you say the word mole, someone infiltrated your team. Whereas rats, I kind of get the vibe is someone is ratting them out. So I'm assuming there is betrayal that's taking place at that time. That's honestly my guess. Um, yeah. And then here we have, they're so short-handed right now, they sent me another mission on top of this one. Breaking up some smuggling racket. They're working you like a dog. Alright, so Anya, go ahead and explain why you underlined that.
I've discussed in my own Tumblr blog before that the whole story, many arcs are actually built on top of Twilight's side mission, and this is the start of his side missions, right? And the side mission has always taken him away from his family, which should be the main mission. So you could see that this is almost the start of like many side missions and how they would link or change
Mm-hmm.
his position with the main mission being Operation Strix. Yeah, I think we can talk about it later. In other side missions.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I also agree that it's just so sad that he's has to pick up these shifts, extra shifts, since people are getting ratted out left and right. An interesting thing that Leona also pointed out was in Spanish, Frankie said it's trendy to betray. That's crazy. That version, Leona. Oh my god. So yeah, it's very interesting to see where the differences lie in different yeah. Oh my goodness, what I'm trying to say. It just depends on different cultural consumers, I guess you could say. That the dialogue is being slightly affected. It's not that bad, but it just goes to show Frankie has I think let me assume. Leona, are you talking about this one right here on this panel where it's above the TV? Frankie says it's trendy to betray. Yes. Yeah, that makes sense because I would see this image would make more sense there. So yeah, very interesting because you can hear the sarcasm in those words. Whereas here we have they're working you like a dog, which makes sense here. Ooh, very interesting here. So we have scrolling up a little bit. I forgot to read what Anya said. She's Mama, I think, named her Anya. She's done that with Loid in chapter 1. He called her little girl before Anya reminded him that she's Anya. So I just added to it. That's fine. Just keep adding. Raph also said Oceanian cartoons are something else. I don't know if this is a future chapter because I don't remember seeing this one. Have you go out without me? Please go and see map. Egg. Penguin. Hey, it's time for bedtime. Yoink. Yeah, I also agree. 70s and 80s cartoons were dark. Fui said. I also said 90s got dark themes like Courage the Cowardly Dog. That was pretty bad too. I'm pretty sure we actually have more of that in modern day. They brought back like this little clown thingy. I can't even remember what it's called, but kids nowadays in the 2010s, 2020s are watching really weird, scary stuff again. So yeah, the theme of dark topics is making its way back to us, guys. I know some 90s cartoons were the same, yes, from the original translation team, from courtesy from Raph. Because of all the spy hunting going on, a lot of them have been caught, and none of the ones left are suitable. Oh, right, people are real into snitching on each other these days. Very interesting that they changed it. Yeah, I really love that you pointed it out, Raph. This is what I was talking about, definitely. See the word expression snitching? I don't think that was applicable in the 70s. Where's my phone? I need to find when did snitching become popular? I'm gonna find a trend for that. When did
That feels like such a 90s word.
snitching?
Yeah. I don't know why, but it feels like it must have gotten popular around the 90s.
I remember it being popular in like the 2000s because I was called a snitch when I was a little kid before. They're like, you're such a snitch. And I'm like, I don't care. Okay. It says here the word snitch has a history dating back to several centuries, evolving in meaning over time. The late 1600s, the earliest recorded meaning of snitch referred to a nose. Late 1700s, the meaning shifted to become a negative slang term for informant. Interesting. In 1800s, it began to be used as a verb meaning to inform or tattle on. early 1900s, the newer meaning emerged referring to steal, possibly a variation of the word snatch. While the exact time when snitching became wildly popular is difficult to pinpoint precisely, its usage as a derogatory term for an informant likely gained more traction in the late 19th and early 20th century as organized crimes became more prevalent. Some sources suggest that the word's popularity as a term used to discourage cooperation with authorities increased significantly in the 1920s with the rise of the organized crime. Therefore, while the word itself has older roots, its widespread negative connotation and popularity within certain social circles, particularly relations to informing on criminal activity, likely solidified in the early to mid 20th century. So it's actually interesting because, again, here I'm just applying some of my linguistic knowledge on here. Probably the reason why they changed the word from snitch to rat is because, first and foremost, rat is probably more popular to use back in the 70s, and especially in this time zone, I would assume, especially in that area too. There's something called idiolects. I don't know if I mentioned this before. Idiolects means like it's a specific language and jargon and slang that you use in a specific area in your, I don't know, in your city or something. Based on your idiolect, people can quickly identify where you're from. So I think why using the word rats is more accurate to the idiolect of this era. Probably also in the area, like maybe Germany. I don't know if it's actually is Germany, but we know it's based off of it. Actually use that word more often versus snitching. Because I feel like snitching would be popular probably in, I don't know, let me see what the origins are. Snitching. I forgot. Because that's just another level of looking into how language works. It's just figuring out where did that word become popular. Where did that word, excuse me, which parts of the world used snitch? Okay, so snitch as a slang term for an informant is used in various parts of the world, particularly in English-speaking countries and regions with strong influence of American or British culture. However, it's important to understand that slang terms can have varying levels of prevalence and recognition across different communities within these regions. So the United States use snitch is widely understood and used in various contexts, including popular culture, media, and everyday conversation. With urban communities and discussion related to crime and enforcement. United Kingdom, the term is also used in the UK with similar connotations in the US. Canada uses the same for US and UK. And it's also understood in various contexts. Australia and New Zealand, the term is also part vernacular in the country with similar meanings and connotation. So yeah, snitch might not be prevalent in non-English speaking countries. The concept as an informant and negative connotation. Oh my god, yeah, that's brilliant. That is actually so smart. Because you recognize what I just said. It's popular in the US, in United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Since the story takes place in Germany, it wouldn't make sense to use the word snitch because snitch is a more of an English English word, right? So rats makes the most sense in a German country, if you think about it. There we go, linguistics. So short mission 3, it's actually, this is interesting. The JP word that is, I can't read that one because that is also the word used by Anya after chapter 14. LO snitches get stitches. I remember hearing that. That was such a long. I haven't heard that phrase in such a hot minute. Anyway, we could talk about the word later. My brain's so messy right now. I'm so sorry. It's okay. All right. So moving back here, we have. They're so shorthanded right now. We already talked about this, and we're moving on to page 20. Well, all the more reason to resolve this quickly. Let's start with women whose circumstances might give them a reason to cooperate. Okay, so Moss, go ahead and explain why you underlined that.
Okay, so it's about a reason to cooperate, use for leverage, and fabricate. Obviously, Frankie is looking at this from a very logical point of view, being like, this is not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to find someone that's just going to do it. You need to find someone that we can make do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's obviously thinking of it from his own point of view, being like, this is going to be impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of sets up like this kind of like image of some like they're going to go into this kind of threateningly. Obviously, he's snuck in and managed to get tiles, which is already kind of a bad thing.
Yeah.
This really does prove that they're very serious about this. They are taking this to the extremes as long as they need to.
Uh-huh.
They're not they're not going to be taking it lightly. They're literally doing anything and everything they can, even if it means kind of ruining someone's life by blackmailing them.
Ooh, I see. I see what you're saying. The word choice here really does give that kind of like, oh, this person can be taken advantage of. I like that you pointed that out, and that tone is there.
Mhm.
And then you also pointed out here, if we can find dirt on them, we can use it for leverage. Oh, you already explained this one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
together.
yeah. Okay, you got it. So, and if not, we can always fabricate some. That's so interesting. Yeah. So it really goes to show manipulation very strong here. Loid, I'd prefer to avoid any complications. Okay, Anya, you circled this.
I find it's interesting that um at the early stage, or maybe even now, that even behind the the Frankie, who claims that he has a low standard for everything, or
Mm-hmm.
happy-go-lucky kind of person, um he's often the cold one, isn't he? Because in the in chapter 1, and in this chapter, in later chapters, he will be the person um who reminds Twilight that he shouldn't get attached.
Mm-hmm.
Um so it's and it's almost funny to see that Twilight. I'm I'm not really sure if it's if he's being kind or whatever, but he is the one who says, No, I'm just going to take the lower risk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to lower the risk, right? This is what he said he's going to avoid any complications.
Right.
So this almost doesn't feel like him. Like he but when you think of, like, this isn't the spy we would imagine
Mm-hmm.
spies would be. Like, the traditionally spies are bad, spy have bad reputations, they lie, they do exactly what Frankie would do, but then Twilight is the one who's more straightforward, who doesn't want to get things complicated, almost like a working like he just wants to get work done. I think I guess this is why I think this is an interesting conversation that shows both characters. Yeah, that's all.
That's a really good point because I definitely see what you're trying to say. It's like two sides of a sword, right? Like we have Frankie and we have Loid, and I kind of see it visually too. Like if you draw it down, I can't even draw a line here. How dare? Like if we draw down a line here, you can see it too. Like we have two sides of a sword. We have Frankie showing the manipulating side, which is like, okay, we can choose anyone and we can make dirt on them just to get them to cooperate. Whereas Loid is like, yeah, no, I'd rather avoid complications. Which is again, I agree with you what you said, Anya, because normally Loid would be the type, or Twilight is definitely the type to want to have control of the situation. So to see him just kind of be like, about it is kind of like, okay, for once he's just kind of out of character. At the same time, it just kind of makes me feel like whatever she does, whoever the wife is going to be, I kind of feel like it actually shows through Yor too that he is he is going to make up for it in some way. Like whatever she's lacking, he's going to do something about it. And we see that with Yor, especially when Yor is always reflecting about, being with Loid. She has a peaceful life with him. He does all the chores. Actually, not all the chores, but he insists to do a lot of the chores and help her as much as he can. Um, so in a way, he's trying to keep it easy for her. Just to that's in his own way, he's trying to persuade her to stay because he's making life easier for her. I kind of feel like that's another way of manipulation, is to like hoodwink someone with like something good, right? Something too good to be true is actually reality for them. So I kind of feel like it's like that. Um, Raph even says here, for me, I imagine blackmailing someone could potentially risk getting reported to the SSS. Right, yeah. Even though Frankie had just said, oh my goodness, it's so popular, so he would have like sent them straight down to having Loid be met with the SSS if they were to do something like that, which is why Loid would want to avoid it. Yeah, I agree. Fiona did that in chapter 60. I don't know if this makes sense over text, but Frankie sometimes to me feels like another half of Twilight, like a piece of his consciousness. Frankie voices that they could extort someone, but then Twilight says, nah, not that. And later, like Anya said, Frankie's reminding him not to get attached when it's clear he is. Frankie's voice is his conscious. Yeah, I agree. In a sense, it's like Frankie is kind of like the voice of reason for Loid because they they practically shared the same life, you know? They were both from the war, from opposite ends, ended up becoming a spy and an informant. They started to see each other eye to eye, and they understand the life. It's difficult for both of them. So in a sense, I feel like Frankie also kind of grounds Loid in a sense. So I agree with that. Of course, we could always say that they just do things differently. Yeah, it could be just a different way of manipulation in its own way. Leona says, kind of like the devil or angel on his shoulder. Yeah. Raph says, in that case, the person Fiona was blackmailing was already compromised with the SSS and would rather not report her. Though maybe he could get away with it with an anonymous tip. That's a good point. Honestly, guys, I totally forgot about chapter 60. We'll talk about it later when we get there. But anyways, moving on, we have Loid pointing out to Anya, really? Hard to imagine a bigger complication than that than that one right there. No way does that look like the scion of a privileged family. That's so funny. Aww. So we have Loid already finding that he wants it simple because I can see now why he wants it simple because he already has to deal with Anya, who's already chaotic to begin with. Moss says, wait. Has anyone seen Daredevil or read the comics? It's like Matt and Foggy. One is impulsive, but one is smart. The other's grounding and but reserved. Yes. I actually watched Daredevil some time ago. I don't remember a lot of the episodes back then. My ex and I used to watch it all the time, but I know exactly what you mean. Like, it's Matt and Foggy. Scarlet.
Yeah, like you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
They have to work together. Yeah.
Maybe they were inspos. Maybe. I love it, like when Endo does like references. So who knows? Maybe they might have been inspos. Fui says Scarlet 60 is one of the ones getting animated in October. I haven't forgotten. I totally forgot what 60 was about. But I'll see eventually. It'll come back eventually. I'm not worried.
60 is one of the greatest chapters.
What is the 60th chapter again?
So if I'm thinking of the right one, I'm like 90% sure it's the one with Lloyd's backstory.
Is it the backstory? They are saying it was the one where Fiona was blackmailing someone.
Oh, that one. No, that one actually is so good though.
I totally forgot. I can't remember. I think the thing is, Frankie is always the colder or the more sensible voice. I guess I was trying to say that this is the complicated part of their relationship. 60s Frankie and Fiona. This is all you need. Oh, yes! Yeah. All right. Thank you, Raph. I love that you just give me like one image and I'm like, okay, I know. Oh my god, you're so funny, Raph. I can't. So close. Fionki is real. Yeah, I love this. This was so good. I remember now. Thank you for that. But yes, so close. Fionki is real. That's so fun. In any case, it's actually interesting here because I actually don't remember. This is actually interesting to me. They said, no way does that look like the scion of a privileged family. I'm gonna sound really dumb here for a second, guys, but I've never used the expression scion of a privileged family before. Like, how do you use that word? Scion is a second child? The first child?
I thought it was something like similar to air, right? I'm just looking at it right now.
Yeah, I think it's more like a rich kid.
That's
who
all
has,
that's all it is being used?
inheritance.
It means descendant of a notable family.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's so interesting that they use that word because Damien prides himself as the scion of his family, but he has an older brother that he feels gets more love and attention from his dad. So it's like, is his brother not the scion?
Well, any of the sons can be a scion because it's a descendant, so anyone in that tree. So if he's still an heir to the property, for example, he's still the scion of the family.
Can we say all of them are scions or no? It's just one.
Well, any of them can be because they're all descendants.
Okay, got it. So scion is an heir. Yeah, I've always seen that word, and I'm always like, you know what? I never actually looked into it. Like, how do we even use the word scion?
Well, even though it's pronounced scion,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason that Anya pronounces it scion, and that's why it's spelt differently, is because she doesn't understand that's how you pronounce it. It's scion, or at least in like British English.
That's just my accent. I'm so sorry. I just say scion. That's just my accent. I didn't know it was supposed to be pronounced scion, or scion, something shorter. The O's shorter.
Yeah, it's like a short sound.
Yeah, scion. Yeah, it's kind of weird for me because I would always say, I think because in American English we like to stress the second syllable for nouns, so that's why I say scion.
Yeah, no,
That's something
yeah,
I've noticed.
yeah. So I think it's a British thing.
Yeah, I think so too because it's not very common in America.
To be fair, it's not common over here, but when I asked people to like try and say it, just for a little an experiment, yeah, no, we say it like with a short sound.
We say heir and heiress. That's the most popular one that we would use, I believe. Like, oh, that's the son, or that's the heir to this throne, the heiress. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, we use that more often as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so reading in the chat, we see, reading the chat. Oh yeah, so back to Anya saying, Twilight's often criticized for not seeing Frankie as a friend, but by reminding Twilight attachment is not a good thing, is a friendly voice, but a voice from a work partner anyway. Yeah, I like that too. I like that we're talking about, like, they're almost like two halves of a whole, in a sense, when it comes to their job. They're work husbands. Frankie and Loid are work husbands. He says he's an heir of the Desmonds. He's not the main heir. He's the spare. Oh, that's so sad to say. Anya says we could discuss it in chapter 60, but you don't need to read it out loud now, Scarlet. Okay, so I'll skip that. Okay, so moving on here. Emmy says I have only know the words scion from Final Fantasy. Yes, that's what I was gonna say too. The only reason I know about the word scion was because of Final Fantasy 14, because the main character is called the Scion. The main hero group thing is the story is called the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. That's right. I have not heard that expression in so long. Emmy, stop. You're bringing me back my old gamer days. Oh my god. Fooey, the heir and spare is an old trope. Yes, I've heard of this too. Old rule in the royal families too. That makes sense. Oh my god, I'm dead. I can't believe we had that conversation. Alright, so Lois says, you're right. Well, I'll see what I can do about her appearance at least. So very interesting here. I see you noticed it too. You underline appearance. Why, Anya?
Because it's important for spies to keep up appearances, right? And in the early part of the story, it's always about Twilight trying to keep up appearances.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think it's kind of like, is it a facade? Sorry, it like it's to
I'm sorry, what was that you just said? Sorry, you just lagged for like a second.
oh, okay, sorry. I mean, the reason I said appearance is important is because uh it's interesting that I think Angel has also talked about politicians having different faces. I
Mm-hmm.
think appearances and faces can be the same thing in the right context. And that is also part of the theme of the story, and that's why I underlined it.
Yes, I liked it. We're talking about appearances, and I love that you made that connection, like the tube in the first chapter, about that one. I don't know what politician role he was, but basically, he had a tube on his head. So appearance matters, and it also ties back into what Moss said earlier about you're having one dress about appearances. So that says a lot. about the society of this time too. Like appearance matters, and I like that the connection there. Like it's an overlapping theme, but also it's also makes sense here because of what you also mentioned, Anya, which is the spy. The spy is all about the appearance. It's the disguise to blend in with society as well. Fui also says Anya looks Anya looks elite, is a gremlin. Damien looks elite, acts elite, but is a gremlin. I think he was a Westalian minister. I'll have to recheck. It's been a while. Same here. Yeah, I won't read. Thank you, Anya. So she spoiled it probably for a chapter. I'll get there. I'll get there eventually. So we're gonna go ahead and scroll down. We get to. I wish I could read this. Does anyone know the name of the shop? It says Is this MUNA?
It looks French.
Yes, it does. Oh, Mona and Monica. Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay, that's a weird O too. This was like a U. It should be like at least close the O and make it twirl like that so I can see the O. Cause it looks like a U. Look at me, I'm just being very grammar Nazi spelling. Endo likes names that starts with the letter M, Melinda, Martha. That's so true. That is actually a really good thing to point out. Weird type font to use, lol. Yeah, same here. Wait, position, Mona and Monica. Thank you, Raf. Thank you, Fui. And I agree too. Leona says, lol, the Spanish swiped out the store name. Spanish was like, Spanish or vanish? The Duolingo. Spanish or vanish? I can't. Alright, Raf got the one that says Mona and Monica. Very interesting. Muna. I think it's Muna is the name. Muna and yeah, because the O is covered. So it's Muna and Monica. I cannot read that handwriting, man. It's just very kind of illegible. Anyways, moving on. Oh yeah, that's actually a good thing there. Stop singing the Duolingo song Spanish or vanish. Well, I mean, look at Leona's. Leona said the Spanish wiped out the entire store name, so it wasn't Spanish enough. It's so funny. So Leona says, oh, Endo does love the moon. That is actually a really good point. He does love the moon. He does make a lot of references to it. Amy said they didn't remove the store name in the PTBR. What's the PTBR at least? Oh, the Brazilian version. At least they kept it. Anyways, page 21. Ooh, Anya's looking at a dress. Come with me, miss. I'll take your measurements. Am I being sold to traffickers? Not if you're a good girl. Where is she learning these words? That spy show? So, Moss, go ahead and explain.
I feel like it's just so odd that his first, like, obviously it's a concern. At least he's concerned about it. But he's just like, oh, it's the spy show. It's the spy's fault, It's like, it's TV. But he's not actually considering the fact that that's a pretty big word for a child. And even if she heard it on TV once,
Yeah.
she's so young that that's not going to be something that she'll know necessarily, know everything about. So the fact that she knows about like getting sold to them is just so funny to me. But obviously he doesn't seem to like care as much. He's like, oh, it's just the TV.
Exactly. Like, how does she know? That's actually something I want to know because with Anya, she has a very interesting vocabulary. So we mentioned like saying mamas, for example. We thought maybe it's connected to trauma. Maybe it's just baby talk. Maybe traffickers is another thing too, just like what you said, Moss. It's like maybe like Loid just overlooks us and says, oh, is it this show? Is it this show that's teaching her these expression? So I was going to say, how does she know? Another thing I wanted to add too was I think if anyone wants to grab the anime sub, I don't know if I want to bother you for it, Raf, because I know you're busy. She doesn't say traffickers, right? She said I'm gonna be sold as something. I forgot what it was. But she did say, I don't think she said traffickers, or was it something else? I can't even remember. Anya says here, he's someone who would read the whole Spy Wars just to try to teach Anya. Yeah, for real. He really tried. Poor Loid. I don't think he remembers she had a past before he adopted her. That's right. She probably heard it from the scientist. That's my That's my thought. I feel like she was scared away by them. Maybe they heard the threat to the mom, like saying like, oh, if you guys don't become a good experiment, maybe we'll send you to the traffickers. You know, they threatened the mom and the child, and the mom was afraid. You know, I could see that happen because I feel like traffickers would be more for adults than children. I don't know. I hope. I hope it's more intended for adults because that would make sense if it was intended for Anya's mom, and then Anya just learned indirectly through that. That would make sense. What if she knows about the word because she was trafficked? Oh, okay, Emmy. Very dark. Maybe. Maybe. That's actually a good point. That's actually crazy. Imagine if they were like trafficked together, Anya and her mom, and then they were sold into the scientists. That's crazy. So Raph says, I'm being sold off somewhere. Yeah. That's what I was saying. Her word choice is different in the anime. Like, why did she say, oh, I'm being sold off somewhere else? Not traffickers. Very interesting. I think her mother might have been. Yeah, I think so too. I feel like traffickers might have been a threat, or it's something that her mom experienced firsthand. And that's what happened. Also, hey Lottie, good to see you here. Oh, another thing to point out, and I feel like it's also like adding on to what Moss said, that spy show, right? We hear this only in the anime, not in the manga. I don't know if across everyone's versions of the book, because I know in English they didn't stay faithful to the anime. The anime, Anya says we when she says yes. Like, oh, you're gonna refer me as your father, Loid said, and she says we. She says something in French, right? In the English version, she says yes. It's just very interesting that Loid didn't even like have a moment where he's like, she knows his language, it's French or something like that. So yeah, it's just very interesting that there are a lot of things about Anya that goes over Lloyd's head. Like, he never second guesses. Like, he forgets, just like what Fui mentioned. He forgets that she had a life before him. Like, she went through a lot. So Lottie says apologies, but I thought I get a ping. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm so sorry. Anya, sorry, that's hi Lottie. Anya's spy show's general excuse where she picks up like other cartoons like internet. She says like trash, right? Remember in the family outing, she's like, oh yeah, look at all these people look like trash or something. She probably got that one from the anime. Oh yeah, Anya did confirm it. She said yeah, that's from the anime. Apologies is actually going into my day-to-day speech. OMG, thanks Lottie. That's actually really cute. I like that, Lottie. Okay. Moving on, we have the seamstress looks like she's already married, and we get to zoom in. The proprietress was on the list of unmarried women, but she's been arrested for political activities in the past. I can't take that risk. Plus, she's a little old for the role. Oh, that's so cute. I'm going to need a lot of luck to get in. And then Yor finally comes in. I love this. Yay! So, Anya. You circle this why?
Because by like while he's thinking he needs a lot of luck, then luck has arrived.
Yeah. The timing couldn't be any more perfect. I agree. Lady Luck has come in. That's actually kind of cute. Oh, I like that actually. I just realized that. Maybe it's coincidence that that thought just occurred to me. Because it's an expression. An English expression, right? Is it the same for you too, Moss?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, say that again?
Lady Luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's an English expression. So, very nice. I like that this translated over in English. Oh. What are you doing? Here we go. Get my colors in. Okie dokie. I think that's such a nice touch. Like, Lady Luck definitely came in. She swooped in. She swooped in with a swish. So we are in page 22, or on page 22. Excuse me. And then Loid just freaks out. It's just so funny again. I can't stop like looking at Loid and realizing how small he looks. Look how small the boy is. Like from day one when they first met, he seems so small, and then as we go into later chapters, we see him bulk up a lot. Like he really has a dad bod. um, Also, Lottie said in the chat that whole "we" was the backbone of my personal theory that Anya knows a Romance language, like Latin as classic language, if she's not in the Spy Family equivalent of French. Yeah, that's been always on my mind. I'd never let that go. So I was so like hyper locked in on that because I was like, why the hell did she say "we"? Like it's Japanese, and it's so yeah, it's always been an intrigue for me, especially with linguistics of Spy Family. I feel like they do have something going on, with the language especially. I've been taking a lot of note of it. Like, of definitely Ostania is a mixture of Japanese and English. I'm curious about Westalis's language. I'm curious of how the OG, the Japanese version, portrays it. Because as far as I've seen the interaction with Sylvia, I can't even think of the words. Sylvia, Loid, and Nightfall all talking together. They're using just the regular Ostanian language because I hear them using Japanese. I think they have used. I don't know if they've used English in their language. I should definitely reobserve that. But yeah, it makes sense that Anya basically has an innate ability with languages because she did really well on the test, especially with that. So her exposure with multiple languages is definitely one of her advantages, her skills per se. Fui says, yours, Lady Death, the Grim Reaper. I agree. Lots of headcanon fanfics makes Westalis a German-speaking country. I've seen a lot of that too. I agree. But anyways, moving on. We have the lady greeting her. Oh, hello, Yor. It's been a while. Hello, I need to get my dress mended. Would it be possible to get it done quickly? And then we have Loid saying, who is she? That she can slide right past me without me even noticing. Moss, so why did you highlight this?
So it's the way that he's saying it, as it like it's almost as if he's asking who has the audacity to be better than me in a way. Like,
yeah, it does.
he seems so affronted at the fact that someone has managed to sneak past him.
Exactly.
Like he just seems so not like angry, but like not shocked either. He's like, what? Who had the audacity? Like, how is this possible? Kind of thing.
Exactly. Yes. The who is she that she can slide right behind me? I feel like I've heard this expression before. Like, I swear to you guys, something in literature had this expression, and it did scream the audacity. um, Raph even brought up the original translation. She got behind me so easily. Who is she? This one is more curious. Like, Loid sounds more curious about her. Skeptical even. The anime, she managed to slip behind me so easily. Who is she? Very interesting that the anime and the original translation was more faithful. So Lloyd's a diva in the Viz version. Yeah, for real. Yeah, I agree because I feel like when I got these pictures, I think these were from Viz. I remember. Yeah. LOL, the audacity. Exactly. Who the hell does she think she is to flank me like this? Anime kind of makes him feel offended and more curious. Yeah, for real. He sounds very cool and collected in the anime version and also in the original translation. Whereas here he's very, very sassy. He sounds a little bit arrogant. I don't know if you guys feel that too.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little arrogant in this moment.
But we know that because obviously he's like, I can't remember like the specific phrase that they use in the first chapter. We analysed it a lot of like he's the best spy from like Westalis, isn't he? Like he's supposed to be the best.
Exactly. Like he prides himself for being the best, and then as this mission progresses, he starts to doubt himself. So he's like, "Who am I?" I think like Twilight or Loid has a hard time coming face to face with the fact that with his failures. You know, like they're not huge like failures, but he has a hard time facing them nonetheless. Like he really doesn't want to face even a lick of that failure. Like it's very interesting to see that in his character. But then again, he's been traumatized with being hopeless or like not being able to do anything, so that makes sense. So we have here. Okay, so yeah, who the hell is Does he think? Yeah, that's a good one, Flotty. I read yours. So Fui says, the Grim Reaper only leads you to where you go. He doesn't have to do all that. You could go all alone. Yor gives her targets of respect to ask and end it quickly and with minimal mess. No trace. So there's no worry or inconvenience. She does kill them, but she gives them the respect as a human. It could be a lot worse. Yes, I remember that she mentioned this during her little imagination of taking Anya on tour for her job, that she does respect them as humans. You know, she kills them very quickly. Lottie says he is a top dog. Of course, he will have a bit of sass. I can definitely get the vibe that Loid is very alpha. Twilight's very alpha because he knows he's the creme de la creme at the top. So he really puts himself to that very high regard, and any kind of mistake really gets to him, I believe. That's kind of like that's the impression I get from him, is that he really prides himself over his, I guess, successes, because that's basically his image now. Like, he threw everything else away, so this is him. Twilight is him. That's the only thing that goes to him. So we have Loid thinking really hard about Yor. I remember now. Yor Briar, 27 years old, never married or divorced. And then we have, again, looking at the eyes. I see that you're doing the same thing here. So, Anya, the eyes. Why'd you circle them?
Um, I I was initially thinking about Yor's eyes because her eyes in this chapter is sorry. My cat just coughed. Anyway, um
Oh.
Yor's eyes look very dark in this chapter. Most of the time, right?
Yeah.
And dark and dull without light.
Yes.
If you compare it to her eyes later on. So I went to um a random chapter, and this is her eyes in another chapter after becoming a forger. So then I saw his eyes, right?
Yeah.
And this is him being alert. Twilight's eyes. This is him being serious, being alert. And then I saw her eyes again in the next page, and this is actually his eyes, isn't it? This is his version of the Twilight eyes. This is more like her Thorn Princess eyes.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Like, if we were to scroll up and compare that image with let's see, moving it up here. I'm scrolling all the way back up. Yeah, like Yor's eyes on page 16, when we scroll all the way down to her down there, and also on page 15. Like, her eyes are kind of like, they're round but also a little bit more squarish from the top. That slant, it just goes to show that, you know,
Yeah.
there's lifelessness in there. Like, she doesn't feel anything. Page 16 at the bottom just goes to show there's no light in her eyes at all, you know? Like, this is her being vulnerable too. So it's like you mentioned and
Yeah.
compared it to her role that you posted in the chat. Yeah, there's more like light is finally getting into her eyes now that she's part of the Forgers. And then if we compare her eyes here to page 22, when she first arrived, she still has that look with her eyes. Like, they're kind of, I don't know, tired. Like, there's nothing looking forward. Like, there's no expression in her eyes. She's just kind of dull in this moment. Whereas in the picture that captured her, she just looks basically lifeless, just like you said. Also, Fui says, Loid, big brain. I think that's why. And then Lottie says, he talks the talk and walk the talk. Exactly. So Fui says duality. It's dull, no purpose, and no real joy, as Yuri has recently left home for his own apartment less than a year. That makes absolute sense. I totally forgot about it. Yeah. So around this time, Yuri did move out. I totally forgot about that. So he's just like, he just finally got a job. It's probably been less than a year since he graduated college. And he got the job right away. I'm assuming, we still don't know the whole timeline with schools, so I'm just gonna assume. Generally, I'm gonna attach just, I don't know if it's the same. If you guys have any idea for like the German schools, do they also graduate in the spring? Because if that's the case, then, or maybe the fall, I don't know. I wonder how the system works. Go for it,
I think
Moss.
Germany is similar to the UK. I think a lot of Europe is all very similar in it's the summer. We finish the month after
Okay.
America, I think. But because you guys start earlier back at school, whereas we start like early September. I know a lot of people in America that start like August-ish.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
Yeah, because our
so
summer
it's about yeah.
exactly like because our summer starts in May or June. It's usually June, mid June. So around June we start our summer, and then we start school in August. So we skip the summer. The entire summer break is just our summer vacation. Um,
So we get like mid-July and August off.
oh, I see. Got you. So yeah, you're right. So basically, if that's the case, it's been literally under a year because we can assume the previous year is the summer that Yuri graduated. And then we're entering into this story where it's approaching springish because we know that actually not even approaching spring. I think this is already past spring. Um because we know this is where I can't even think straight. Anya is enrolling into Eden Academy. So this is around spring, right? So yeah, Yuri just barely moved out of the house under a year. A little under a year. Because now Yora's on her own. She has no one to provide. She has no meaning to her life. And then we also learned here from this description, um, both parents deceased, one brother several years younger. Both are civil servants. Nothing unusual in their files. Very interesting here. Let me see. Moving up, we have. Oh yeah, so Fui says she's on autopilot. Raph says she's probably just coasting through life between those times. Yeah, I agree. Like, yeah, she probably like. I don't blame Yor because if you have spent your whole life doing something, this is something I kind of relate to her on. You kind of feel like you lost your purpose. She's kind of having a like quarter life crisis. She's kind of having a quarter life crisis here because Yuri's gone. He's left the house. He has his own apartment now. She's on her own. She's kind of trying to exist, but she just doesn't know yet. Like she's just kind of quote unquote existing, but she's not really there. Leona says, I feel like his cockiness in part was built up by Wise. They took his identity, they took his freedom, so maybe his ego's only thing that they had left to egg him further into being into the best. It would be interesting to delve more into the time of his transition from a scared kid in the military to his current confident persona. Yeah, that would be very interesting. I like that you pointed that out. Yeah, when it goes to show that Loid or Redacted, he voluntarily accepted that there's nothing left for him. So he did take up the mantle of becoming a spy for Wise. So he did ultimately give up everything. So the only thing in exchange he got from Wise is this cocky guy that everyone relies on. He's a number one spy. So that's really all he has to hold on to. I agree with you, Leona. So that's a great point there. Lottie says Germans follow early summer. Oh, I see. So Fui says he has helped her get her city hall job, I think. I think so too. That would make sense. Yeah. Maybe Yuri helped her get a job. Late spring, early summer to late summer, early fall. Interesting. Thank you. I'm not interested. I'm sorry. I'm not sure that happened. Oh yeah. So I think McMahon just applied after she got the job. He's her direct supervisor, so he's keeping watch over her. I'm only assuming based on the words from their phone call. That could be the case, yeah, because it would make sense that McMahon is one of the supervisors. I think as shown in chapter 98, either they graduate in spring or summer, not really autumn, I guess. It could be different. Most likely summer because short sleeves. That makes sense. Oh, yeah, that's a good point, because you have the Martha Anderson arc. Okay, so I checked the anime. I had a screenshot for the anime mug for Yor, but then I find out Crunchyroll does not allow you to take screenies. Yeah, Crunchyroll is very strict on that, so it really sucks. I totally get you. Anyways, moving on to page 23, we have just sloppiness on my part then. I really have been losing my edge lately. Sir, you've been staring at me since I walked in here. Can I help you with something? So, Anya, go ahead and explain why you underlined losing my edge and a circle eyes. I mean, circling Yor's eyes.
Because I think he has been like chapter 1 is his start.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks he's losing he thinks he's been losing his edge since chapter 1,
Yep.
but it only blows up in the Realism arc.
Yeah.
So So this is kind of a line that is always happening, but that only becomes a problem, or he finally realizes it's a problem in the Willows arc. And yeah, that's all.
That's actually a good point too. Like, yeah, in Wheeler's arc, just like you mentioned, it does blow up eventually. Um, Something that's also interesting to point out is that Loid. I love that he's self-doubting himself, but in actuality, it's because Yor's actually that good. She can sneak up behind him, because of her skill as an assassin. Another thing to point out is that it just ties into what you pointed out, like way back in chapter 1, about the whole calm down thing. My thing is glitching. Calm down. The expression you used before.
Mhm.
Like, because he's relaxing, he's putting his guard down too. That's kind of the impression I got from here. I'm losing my edge because I'm calming down. I'm
Ah,
feeling peaceful.
yeah, yeah. I just realized this could be this is the same wording the Chinese translation used.
Mm-hmm.
Calming down or relaxing
Yeah,
or
exactly.
losing his edge.
Very interesting. Yeah, I love that.
Uh, yep.
All right. So we have,
Thank you for pointing that out.
yeah, no problem. I kind of figured too because I think it's also catching up to him too. Loid is exhausted. Like, he wants to calm down. He wants to relax. He's been overworked. We already saw Frankie mention that, or no, Loid disclosed to Frankie that he's picking up more shifts because they're out of a lot of like spies because of the sweep. So poor Loid, he's exhausted. So his body just wants to rest. Um, and I don't know if you guys can relate to me. I don't know. The older we get, the harder our bodies want to shut down. I've been feeling it more often and I really hate it. There's a lot of times where I just can't get out of bed because my body's just so freaking burnt out. It's like, oh, you dealt with kids the other day. We're not going to work at all today because you must be drained by those little kids. Um, so it's just like I've been noticing things about my body that it doesn't respond well with certain things anymore, like high energy kids or with super social friends. I get drained very easily. Um, so I don't know how Lloyd can just completely tank that because I feel like the older we get, the harder it is for our body to just like keep up with energy. It's just really difficult. So Amy says use Edge browser for that. It works. Which episode? I can grab that for you. Episode 2. Wise is one understaffed shit show. At least in Berlin division. Yeah, me too on exhaustion. Yeah, we're one and the same. I'm just so tired lately. Trying to put the blue. This is the only mugshot I could find in episode 2. Alternatively, there's one in episode 3. Ooh. So we have mood. Yeah, for real. We have, so you're saying that you've been staring at me since I walked in here. Can I help you with something? So what's interesting here, I like to point out, is that Yor is so good with her skill. Not only does Loid doesn't become skeptical of her, actually he does. He mentions it later that she's very observant. I think in the next few panels, but in any case, the fact that he points out that you've been staring at me since I walked in, Yor could feel his gaze on her without even him looking at her directly. He was thinking really hard about her. Can I help you with something? And then we see Loid here saying, what? She could even sense my gaze? How? So it's just very funny because from the very get-go, we get to see Loid is already affected by both Anya and Yor. We mentioned about it in greater details in chapter 1. That like Loid is literally in Anya's hands. Not literally, figuratively in Anya's hands. Like whatever she feels, Loid is like kind of like a prison to her. He's like a prisoner to her emotions. When she feels sad, he freaks out. With Yor as well, she's throwing him off balance ever since the first time that they met. He didn't even like start to be skeptical of her. Oh, how did she know? How did she get behind me? And also, how was she able to feel my gaze? Not once has he suspected, oh, is she a spy? At least not yet. He's never had that thought that she could probably like a counter spy or something. which is very interesting now that we point this out. Because it wasn't until Yuri appeared that he started to realize, oh, could she be part of the SSS? You know? So it's very interesting to see how Loid is so flustered from both Yor and Anya from the very beginning. So I feel like it's very interesting to see that, because it just goes to show the pacing of the story too. Because even I believe Loid also gets flustered by Sylvia at times. Like he gets scared of her, is what I mean. So things like that, I would say. So, no, I just thought you were very pretty. Sorry. And then we finally see the light in her eyes, right? And then she says sorry. He says sorry there. So first, Anya, why did you circle her eyes?
Um, because it changes from the alert eyes to this surprised and almost happy eye.
Yeah. Like we see a little bit of light coming back to her eyes, right? And then Moss?
Yeah, so obviously you've just spoken about him being like flustered, and that's obviously very like obvious here.
Mm-hmm.
With like him like hesitating, not really knowing what to say. But like the apology, it made me like laugh a little bit inside because I'm not actually entirely sure we've seen him apologize for anything before,
Mm-hmm.
especially not when it comes to women and him like trying to use them for like his own thing. So
Yeah.
obviously like this is really like taking him off guard, considering the fact that he's kind of I didn't really know how to like word it. Like he's kind of being himself there. He's like actually feeling bad about like not knowing how to speak to her.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if it's actually him being vulnerable or he's actually playing his role as Loid because it's so good. I can't really tell here. Um, because it looks convincing that he's Loid. Definitely his eyes show that he's very like caught off guard. We also see here that he's surprised too. I think he genuinely was surprised. But then he played it off as part of the act too. So it's like it was genuine, but also it works. It kind of feels that way. Also here to point out in the chat, we have Lottie providing the image of Yor. So it says she has no record of being married or divorced. Yeah, her eyes there, it looks like, even though it's different from the design of the manga, for example, Lloyd's eyes are closed as of this moment while he's thinking really hard about her, which is very interesting because you can see that he's very like locked in on her, so she can still feel that gaze, like he's concentrated really hard on her, and she still felt that. That's crazy. And then on top of that, I believe in the anime it shows that when Yor speaks, Lloyd opens his eyes. So that just goes to show he didn't even have his eyes on her. He was thinking really hard about Yor. So she sensed that. And then Raph was like, "Oh, OMG, I totally misread that. I wanted to ask, what do you mean that you misread something? Can you clarify that for me?" Lottie said, "What getting a child does to a man, for real." Fui says, "Behold, the face of an empty nester, for real." Lottie says, even funnier that he instantly sniffs Yuri out in comparison. Yeah, Yuri's literally like, okay, we already talked about this. Yuri graduated probably the previous summer ago. He got his job probably around a couple months later, was very talented and roped into the SSS. He's brand new. He's like a baby chick. He knows nothing. He keeps blending out his personality. That's why Loid, it's very easy for Loid to sniff him out as an SSS. So, Raph says, after what Loid went through under Sylvia, I'd be scared too. For real. Sylvia is so scary. I mean, I'm just recalling the episode where, or the chapter where we see Sylvia training a newbie, and she's tough. She's scary. Lottie says, anime scenes to help with contrast. That's right. I was just admiring how pretty you are. He doesn't say sorry in the anime, does he, Lottie? Because I know if he says gomen or gomenisai in Japanese, he did say sorry, but I don't know if the English captured that. Fui says she's thrown him off his train of thought. Dude, he's floundering. He is, for real. Poor guy. He wasn't expecting that. He's just struck. Yep, can confirm. He says, I'm far too relaxed lately. Exactly. Just like what I thought. So in the manga, It definitely differs from the manga because we see Lloyd's eyes are open, whereas the anime his eyes are closed. So very interesting touch there. It also makes more sense in the anime that he has his eyes closed because if his eyes are open like that, he would look really creepy, probably to the employees there. So that makes sense. Raph says about the mugs. I thought he meant actual cup mugs. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, moving on. So we have scrolling down here. So you're saying you have a positive impression of my appearance? Well, yes. And then I like that you put blunt on here, Anya. Did you want to add anything else to that? Whoops. My board.
Yes, maybe. Because I think Anya in one of the special arts in the volume in the manga books that she has mentioned that your is blunt, but then it doesn't really appear normally because before being a forger, before becoming a forger, she doesn't talk much. She doesn't really interact with um her colleagues, and if she does so, she does it in a very blunt way, and that becomes the source of her insecurity because every time she tries to interact or she tries to make response, it would be too blunt that her colleagues would find, mm, I didn't expect that because it's blunt and it's not what
I see. I totally get what
it's
you're
not.
saying.
Yeah. So if you look at chapter 87, when she talked to Frankie, after she has kind of like she made she negotiated with herself and accepted herself as herself during the
Mm-hmm.
Willows arc, right?
Right.
So in chapter 87, we could see her embracing her bluntness and that Frankie caught on it by saying that, oh wow, you're blunt.
I
Yep,
totally forgot
that's
about
all.
that. I totally forgot about that. I totally blinked out. That's actually very interesting that you point that out because, like I mentioned, I didn't catch that, but it's a good catch nonetheless. Um, it's very interesting that you also point that out because there's an expression I want to say. I can't even remember what it was. It was like she lacks craft. Is that the expression, guys? Like she lacks class. Is it class or craft? In terms of
Do you
like
mean tact?
what is it?
Act?
Like she like there's an expression that they say that someone who's kind of like witty in their expression or like they know how to hold themselves in conversation, like she lacks craft or something. I remember this expression. She lacks blank.
I feel like it's tact. Let me Google the expression and if it's right.
It might be tact. It might be. You guys might be right. I know it was something with an ah. You guys might be right. Yeah, she lacks tact. That's probably the best word. Yeah, like she's not
Mhm.
tactical at all. She's very blunt, just like what Anya said. And great observation too that she's been all alone. The only person she talks to is Yuri, so she has no social interaction prior to the Forgers. So she's just like you guys mentioned that she's very blunt. Raph also referenced the chapter here. Then Scruffy can be silky and shiny too. Wait, what are you planning to do? Oh, Anya, we can't do that to Frankie. Without that hair, no one would ever know who he is. You're ouch. That's way too harsh. Oh, that's why. Okay, that went over my head. Like, yeah, she was being a little too harsh there. That's funny. She lacks the social finesse, the tact. Thank you. Yes, socially awkward. That's right. That's the words. Those were the words I was looking for. Yeah, she lacks social finesse and am I even pronouncing it right? The social finesse and then the tact as well. Like she's not tactical at all. Um, she remembers what Camila said. You're so pretty. I know she could turn some heads if she put a little effort into her appearance. So very interesting. This little uh, parentheses. I don't know if it's like a side comment. Again, I believe it was a backhanded compliment. And for poor Yor, it just went over her head. She just thought, oh, that's a good advice. If she put a little effort, on her appearance, maybe she would be attractive. The expression could turn heads. I love the language that's being used there. And then you're saying, sir, Papa, I got measured. She lacks social skills with living people she has been interact with for longer than 30 minutes. Yeah, and it's also could be a reflection of speech. So, kind of briefly talking about language. Depending on who you spend time with, the way that you speak starts to mirror theirs. So if Yor is talking very blunt, it's because she talks to McMahon and the shopkeeper a lot, and their language is probably very, very blunt. So she's adopted that speech as well. That's another explanation of how I could pick up her bluntness comes from there. So we have here, page 24. Who's that? Another customer. He has a kid. And then you pointed at this, Moss. Why?
Okay, so it's the framing of that specific part.
Yeah.
It's basically where you're like you can because I'm not the biggest like art analyst. Like I don't really know how to word it, but it's where you can kind of see like he's obviously looking down on Anya, but he's also like the way he's framed. He's also trying to be above Yor here as well.
Yeah.
And obviously like he's like, oh, it's just another customer, but the way he's like looking at Anya there, he's like, don't mess this up for me.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying because I don't think I have the right, but I can only like assume and kind of analyze too. You're right that the way that it's framed, it's done on purpose because they do something like this in film. I used to have like a small film analysis class that I was a part of, and they always tell, like when I used to be in that class, they always reminded me perspective is done on purpose, and that's very, I can see that being carried into manga. So the way that Loid, just like you mentioned, Moss, the way he's angled, that he's above looking down on Anya, and the fact that also Yor turns away and she looks small. There's something about this angle that's exuding power or control, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Power and control is kind of strong with me too whenever I look at him like this. Even his eyes, it kind of feels like, oh, he's looking down on you. It kind of feels arrogant. Again, I'm getting the vibe of arrogance coming through. Arrogance. So it's very interesting to see that angle. Oh yeah, Lottie's saying she ain't a homewrecker, cough cough Fiona. Fui says that rule is also how us anime fans pick up character speech too, or how can you pick up the words of a new language repeatedly heard? I've read something that this could be a way to include a small child in a drawing. It could be something like that too, but it's also a way of, I don't know, just the expression is a little unsettling to me. That's why the tone, the expression is always a tone, at least for me. So the fact that Loid has this expression kind of just gives me a very weird vibe about like maybe there's something power, control, or arrogance that's coming on here. So I kind of understand where Moss is coming from here. Lottie said the backhanded comment hits different in the anime since she mentioned nice body too. You've got a nice face and body, Yor. You'd be a knockout if you just dressed up. Yeah, I can see that too. I forgot how Camila said it. I don't know is sarcasm like common in Japan? I remember hearing that it isn't, so I don't know if Camila captured the sarcasm in her voice. It's kind of hard to tell in Japanese. It is. Okay, Anya. Thank you, Anya. Because I know a lot of the times there's something about Japanese people when they act nice, sometimes it's sarcastic, and I'm like, I totally miss it as a foreigner. But in English, we have a very obvious tone that tells you that we're being sarcastic. But in any case, we have Yor saying, I nearly asked another woman's husband out on a date. I've heard of cases where women have been murdered by the wives for that. Although in my case, I'd certainly kill her first. Very interesting here. No, I mustn't even entertain the idea. That's just the sort of thing that could expose me as an assassin. Act more normal. And it's very interesting here because we see, since Anya raised the eyes here, the moment that Yor's away, not looking towards them, she loses the light in her eyes. The light is gone. The light in her eyes are gone. So yeah, it's similar to us in the South. Bless your heart is a fun phrase. Here, anyways. And then we see Anya freaking out. Assassin? Whoa. In page 25, we have finally the pieces coming together. An assassin, a spy. So cool. The girl was starved for entertainment. All right, Moss. Why did you highlight this?
Okay, so obviously we know that's the narrator, just to obviously make that clearer.
Mm-hmm.
She's a child. She's not supposed to be starved for entertainment. She is supposed to find everything and anything interesting.
Yep.
So the fact that they pointed out like she is genuinely starved for entertainment,
Uh-huh.
she's obviously been deprived, and we know that she's from this like orphanage and she's had like a rough time.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that she's constantly bored, but like she shouldn't be, because she's out with her new dad. They're going shopping. She's like doing all these new things,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously there is something that's so like ingrained into her that she needs something bigger and like constantly like she's looking into everything, I guess.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, like why did the narrator need to point this out? It's very interesting. Other than maybe comedic purposes, I think
Mhm.
maybe in Japanese this was their sense of comedy was, oh yeah, obviously she was starved for entertainment. So it makes sense. I think this was a comedic timing. But also something I wanted
Yeah.
to point out was kind of referencing our previous discussion too. Anya's looking for protectors, right? She's looking for guardians.
Mhm.
I am not letting go of the way that it was phrased in the manga, where it sounded like Anya was the one who's in control of choosing, the orphanage. Like maybe sometimes maybe she was brought back because she was weird and people didn't like her, but at the same time, maybe she caused problems for other people because she was just simply being herself, and they couldn't accept that about her. So in a sense, whether it was intentional or not, she was technically being brought back because she was waiting for the right people who would pick her up or adopt her, right? So, in the case of Loid and Yor, she was perfect for the mission, and she intentionally or like she inevitably got herself really good parents to people. Like these people are protectors, right? Like both her mom and dad at this point, Loid and Yor, are both competent people. They can fight bad guys. Anya is gonna see, like, in the next few chapters or so, that she doesn't have to worry because her parents are both gonna protect her, and she starts to feel more safe around them. So I kind of feel like, although this is such a comedic expression here to say like, oh, the girl will starve for entertainment, just like what Moss was saying, at the same time, I kind of feel like this is excitement that she's starting to see, the star in her eyes. She's seeing, what's it called? Spy wars happening before her eyes, kind of. This excitement of spy wars, her dad being the spy, and then now mom being an assassin. That's pretty badass. Pretty cool. Lottie saying anime says it's similar, like the little girl was starved for entertainment. Yep. So scrolling down, we have Anya reading Lloyd's mind, saying, I thought she might be a prospect for the wife role, but a woman that intuitive could be a threat to the mission. So it's very interesting because we finally have one moment where he is kind of suspicious of Yor. Again, it's not the one that I wanted it to be, or what would have made the most sense, which is basically, why didn't he think she was a spy? Like, if she was intuitive, why didn't he make the connection that she was probably a spy? But he never did. He just thought that, oh, she might be a threat to the mission. That's all he thinks about. And then Yor is like, I thought he might work for the boyfriend role, but I should avoid any possibility of bloodshed. So something I wanted to point out about Yor's vocabulary again, and kind of scrolling back up, she says bloodshed. If we scroll up even further, she says expressions like, I nearly asked another woman's husband on a date with me. I've heard of cases where women have been murdered by wives for that, although in my case, I'd certainly kill her first. So this was on page 24. I'm just highlighting her word choices because they all align with her career, which is, again, assassin, which makes sense. So it's very interesting to see that a lot of her language is just circulating around assassin and all that stuff. Wow, I'm so sad that Mama's gone. What are you doing? Sway. I just miss Mama so much. Is your wife away? Well, my wife passed 2 years ago. I'm doing my best to raise her as a single father. Then no one would try to kill me if I asked him. So again, kill again. Excuse me. So Raph says, another comparison, the anime omits his reasoning for changing his mind. So he pointed out here, I was considering asking her to play the wife, but she's got sharp instincts, it'd be too risky. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, the translation's different. We said in the English, the Viz version, intuitive instead of sharp. It could be a threat to the mission. Instincts, it'd be too risky. I wonder about the word choice. I wonder why they changed it. That's always something that intrigues me. It's like, okay, why did we change here? What's the reason? Lottie says it has a vibe of I don't want to murder Loid's husband. It's very interesting. All right, we're on page 26. We have your pretend boyfriend. I wonder if I can read that. I can't read that. Yes, I lied and told my brother that I was in a relationship. I know it's a lot to ask, but I'd like to take you to a party. I promise you, this isn't some sort of scam, and of course, I'll find a way to repay you. I just want to put my brother's mind at ease. I understand, and I will accept. Really? Under one condition. Long story short, I want to ask you to attend a family interview posing as Anya's mother. It was so important to my wife that in these uncertain times, our daughter attend a good school. And now that she's gone, well, I want to honor her wishes as best as I can. Papa's such a liar. How many times has Anya says Papa's such a liar now? It's been like 3, right? Since the first chapter? I feel like, again, it's just like the whole kind of going back into what I mentioned before, repetition. It's just for comedic purposes, but still, it's just funny. May I ask you to help me do that just this once? I'll lure her in with an initial small request and parlay that into an agreement to marry. That's very interesting here. So now we see Loid being a little bit manipulative. So it's kind of like he had a delayed response. Like, remember how Frankie first said, why don't we manipulate them and get blackmail right off from the get-go? But here we have Loid, who is saying like, okay, let's lure her in now that he has some interesting intel on her. He heard a story from her that she's worried about her brother, all that jazz. And then we see Loid finally making a move, or sorry, Twilight making a move. He lure her in with initial small request, and then parlay, very interesting word choice, parlay that into an agreement to marry. I feel like parlay is such a British word, though. Is it British? Is that something you use there, Moss?
Which word?
Parlay.
I feel like I have heard it, but I don't think it's like a super common thing.
I'm thinking about parlay from Pirates of the Caribbean. Parlay. Wrong one. That's not the right one. It definitely is an old vibe. I think that's Middle English. So Raph says it's an old word, lol. Lottie, a sweet word for blackmail, convince, or force. OMG, that's exactly what I was thinking. Force. Oh, what were you thinking, Raph? It's a sweet word for blackmail, convince. About POTC. What?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
I'm sorry?
I think it's the same thing that you were referencing earlier. Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Whenever I think parlay, I was thinking Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, I looked at it, I was like, what's POTC again? We have the same brain. Thinking about, I'm just thinking so much about that scene with Elizabeth. Parlay. Okay, if you can think, so yeah, very interesting that they use the word parlay here, that into an agreement to marry. If you really think I can pull it off, then I'd be happy to help. So, very interesting here too, something to point out. Since Anya kind of cursed me, Anya, how dare you curse me, now I can't stop looking at the eyes. Yor's eyes are not bright yet. There's no light in them, like no complete light in them yet. Like here, she's kind of like, there's some brightness into her eyes, but it's still kind of dull, you know?
Mhm.
Yes, there's Raph. That's the one, parlay. Damn it, Raph. That's what I was thinking of too. But anyways, yeah, just like what you mentioned, Anya, the eyes here, not enough light in them. It kind of reminds me of Anya when she was first adopted and she didn't know her name. Same eyes. This is the same eyes as Anya before she knew the spelling of her name, Anya, instead of Ania. The change in them. So yeah, parlay, not
Mhm.
parlay though. Yeah, the spelling change. I agree, Lottie. So yeah, I think it's definitely a different. It's a heteronym. Is that the word I was looking for? No, there's a word for that. Screw it. I'll think about it later. It's hetero something. It's a different word because of the spelling, but the pronunciation I think is still the same though. Maybe it's a homonym, homophone. Jack Sparrow probably.
Homophone?
Parlay.
Yeah, I think it's a homophone, right?
I think so, yeah. Because I mean, we have 2 and 2. That's a homophone. So parlay and parlay probably are homophones. So, anyways, we have here. If you really think I can pull it off, then I'd be happy to help. Anya, why did you circle and underline?
Um, because because even before like you said, her eyes isn't her eyes, there there aren't much light in it, but still this is her nature to help, right? This she she and Anya use this kind of like
Mm-hmm.
position to when they're like they feel encouraged to do something. Like this is what they do with their fist,
Oh, with the fist. Oh,
right?
yeah.
So this is what when they're encouraged or when they're determined, they will use this fist position to show their determination.
Oh, no.
And y- yes,
Now that you pointed out,
yeah,
they are mirroring each other here too. Yeah, I can see the determination on that.
yeah. So I think yes. E- Even if she isn't, I'm sorry, my brain is not braining.
My brain's not braining too. It's
Give me a
okay.
second. Um, I think even if her eyes isn't, she isn't happy yet because she hasn't become a forger. But she's still her in a sense.
Yeah,
She's still a kind person. She is intuitive, but she's very kind and she wants to help,
yeah,
even without the light in her eyes. If that
yeah.
makes sense.
No, that makes sense. I just feel like usefulness is very strong when it comes to Yor, because I feel like when it comes to like, oh, if you really think I can pull it off, then I'd be happy to help. She's always been the nice kind, I would say. Like, I think her default is she's always been kind. I mean, she's always been helpful to Yuri. She's a provider. Um,
Hmm.
we see it in Anya when she interacts with her that she's the kind of woman that wants to help in any way she can. She's supportive to Loid. So it just shows her default is that she just wants to help. I think that's something that tying back to Garden, like we were being skeptical over that maybe just Garden's just banking on the idea that, since Yor is just such a helpful person, we're going to use that as a way to, manipulate her, to get her to
Hmm.
work for us, is because she's helpful. So they watch their language and say, like, oh yeah, don't remember, you don't worry. The fact that you're killing these people, you're helping the society do better. We actually see that language in chapter 3, I believe, where she's like saying, "Oh, I come up here to," when they're looking at the view, looking down on the city. She's like, "I'm here when I am finished with work. It just makes me realize what kind of work I do, that I'm helping these people." So it just makes me wonder, like, okay, who planted that in her head? We'll talk about this again later in the next chapter, but in any case, help really just stands out to me about her because she's just the kind of person who wants to help people. Lottie says she's got 2 arms.
Hmm.
It's not visible due to the text bubble. They are bad people, so it doesn't matter. We'll see. We'll see. I'm actually very curious about them. In any case, thank you. Then I'll see you on Saturday for the party. Phew. Great. Um, Something that's also very interesting. I don't know what to call these. They always sigh, and I know this is something very relevant in Japanese culture. Why do they sigh? They're both like this. Ugh, I don't know what to call this. A little huff. Yeah, these little puffs, they're just like relaxed, right? Relaxed or relieved. It's kind of the impression I get from them. They're little huffies that show relief or relaxation because I remember there's this whole conversation about Loid showing the huffies around Yor more often. Like, he's more relaxed around her. Yeah, so Raph says a little huff. Lottie says it's a huff. Fui says huffy. I like all you guys said huff. But yeah, something about these, I feel like this is very Japanese kind of cultural thing, because I don't think when I see this in terms of, or like, I see this all the time in terms of Japanese media, but it's not very common in American, other than anime-inspired cartoons, because I think about Teen Titans, where Robin used to make the huffies, but only because he was exhausted. But in the Japanese, it's used in like relaxation and positive environments, so it's very interested. Yeah, the visible sigh. That's what I was thinking. A bit like Anya's saying in chapter 1. Yeah, so the visible sigh that Raph provided, relegated mainly to the lighter anime, the visible sigh is a little white cloud that appears near and moves away from the mouth or nose of a person sighing. It's used to symbolize heavy breathing after exertion. In some cases where the onomatopoeia hue is used in English. It tends to emit from someone's mouth when they eat or swallow something, and when something from the nose, it sometimes expresses a smug feeling. The cloud itself is usually circular with a small stem that points towards the character emitting it, possibly based on the phenomenon of visible breath encountered in weather or sufficient low temperature and high humidity. In many works, the cloud will be compacted, resembling a mushroom, maybe present at cathartic exhalation, subtropic gestures. Oh, thank you for showing that. Yeah, I thought so, because I see that all the time in Japanese media, and I'm like, I understand how they're being used, but they're usually used for like negative connotations, like exhaustion, tired, and it's usually shown as a mushroom like this one, like you showed here. But what's interesting about that is, if you look at Twayor's version, it doesn't look like a mushroom, it's more like a cloud. So I feel like it differentiates itself by making it look more fluffy. So I guess it's, yeah, puffier, right? So I feel like the puffiness is associated to a positive. Puffy, positive, PP. So yeah, that's something I've noticed. It's like interesting. Or it's just an art style. It could be an art style choice too. It could be. Because we do see the word few in the background, like you mentioned. Oops. This totally did that late. Yeah. It says hue in the background. So, very interesting. All right. So, you put a star here. Are we done for today, Moss? Or is this...
I believe so. I think we've hit almost our 2 hours, so...
Oh, yeah. That's actually a good point. So, that's a good transition, too. All right. So, let me go ahead and check our thing. Yeah. We passed our 2-hour mark. It could be an art style though, but yeah, today was very fun. Wow. And today has been very, very like, yeah, it's a good stop too. Yeah, it's a good call. Nice call, Moss. And thank you everyone that showed up today. I can't believe it. We like had a very fun stream, and also it's the 6th anniversary. So yeah, midway through the chapter. Exactly. We're almost done. So Fuse has got a vet call, so we're about to head out for the rabies shot. Oh, okay. So yeah, I guess that's it for today's stream. I'm gonna go ahead and transition our video back to the main cast here. So yeah, guys, any thoughts? Any plans for today? I do have an announcement for us, briefly after the end of the stream, because it's just for our server. Other than that, anything else, guys? Moss, Anya, Leona?
No,
Not really.
nothing from this. Yeah.
Okay. And then Raph, anything else? I know Fui's heading out soon. But yeah. Okay. So I guess I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. So thank you everyone who stayed on and just basically chilled with us, listened to us yap about chapter 2 and analyze as per usual. Happy 6th anniversary for Spy Family again. And other than that, we wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Stay hydrated, sleep if you need to, take naps, eat something healthy. But yeah, other than that, we'll see you guys in the next mission or next chapter. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
お眠りなさい私